Is it in the keys? The fingertips that reach out to touch them? The string that begs to be bent? Or is it in the notes on a page? A foot to a pebble? The infinite space between imagination and skill? Or is it simply music?
Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, if wherever you are. Welcome to the 13th Note Art of Mastery podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Spike Wong, and today I brought back our good friend, Jay Barth, and we're going to talk about American music that came out of the wonderful city of Detroit, and as well as the history of Detroit music and the talents that came from also Motown. So happy 2026. This is our first broadcast of the year on this platform, and we're very excited to talk about music today. So without further ado, Mr. Jay Barth, how are you, Jay?
I'm good. Good afternoon, Jeff. Nice to see you again.
That's always great seeing you, sir.
All right.
And okay, just make sure that everybody who are not familiar with you, you were a professional front of the house engineer. You ran major concerts for top artists such as Kiss, Cheap Trick, Bob Seger, Rod Stewart, Aretha Franklin, and you have decades of interactions through music. And one of the things when we got talking last year is that your upbringing in this region. So can you share with us just a little bit about what you remember growing up in the Detroit, Michigan area?
Well, I grew up on the east side of Detroit, and just kind of a normal, middle class kid on the east side. Probably lower middle class, I guess. but my folks worked hard, and we were. We had, in growing up, we had a couple radio stations that were very strong influence in my life because I always had a little radio next to the bed, and I used to listen quite a bit. But one of them was called CKLW, which is, ironically enough, located in Windsor, Ontario.
Oh, wow.
But CKLW had one of the biggest transmitters anywhere around. It had a 50,000 watt voice that went, oh my God, you could get it up almost to the tip of the southern peninsula of Michigan. And they were very, very instrumental in breaking records, particularly rock and roll music at the time. But there was a director there. Her name was Rosalie Trombley. And Bob Seger wrote a song called Rosalie.
Wow.
It's about her. About how she could make or break you and whatnot. Of course, it made her a very special person to know.
Sure.
And I think Thin Lizzy did a great cover of that song too. So,
right. That's awesome. And what's interesting is that back when radio really had a hand on helping artists and breaking records, I think it was so exciting because you never know that particular radio personality that week was going to show you something that's going to become, as today's term, go viral, right?
Sure.
And let me ask you this. This is before the British invasion, of course, right? We're talking about probably around the 50s. Yeah,
and of course the British invasion became very much part of CKLW in my early career, life too. But there was another station called WJLB, which was kind of the black station in Detroit.
Yeah.
So between the two, those two really, you know, took up most of my time. So
Right. And back in those days, if I was a local artist in that region, can I walk my record into that station and get it into the hands of the programmer or the DJ?
well, it's all these radio stations went through the whole payola thing and all that stuff back in
Yep.
the day. So,
Oh, yeah.
CKLW being in Windsor, Ontario, was a little different than our laws and stuff. So, I wouldn't say either way. I think that people would get together and do those things for sure. So,
Right.
I have
Cool. Yeah. Well, I know that in regards to radio play for a long time, because I worked at Warner Brothers, and this is late 80s. But I was told war stories, they call it war stories, right? That especially the guys that's been with the company since the 70s. And it was
Right.
not out of, norm to show up with your sales staff with pizza boxes or candy boxes and so forth. And there's substance in those
right.
the play of the record label, latest artist or latest hit. I think that type of a behavior actually ran for many decades.
Oh, sure. You bet. People
Yeah.
come in with money and lunch or whatever kind of bribes they did to get a song played,
Right. And the interesting thing about it is this is really dial this onto the history of Detroit real quick for the folks who's not familiar with Detroit history or never been to Detroit area. One of the biggest things that I did on my deep dive research is, of course, the Ford Motor Company that started there in 1903. And what I was not prepared and even really recognized is even prior to that, there was a lot of industrial metal work with railroads and shipyards and things of that nature. So Detroit was really founded with a lot of blue collar hard work.
Oh, yeah.
And in companies that really produce for American goods.
Well, it's right on the waterway that would get you out to everywhere. So, that's that was very important at the time. It's when you look at the history of our country, the rivers were way before interstates or anything. It's
yes, sir.
The history of all our cities and everything
are
all laid out on the rivers. So the Detroit River was a big deal, and you could actually, especially once they made the canal, that was a way to the world. Not just that. I don't know if you're interested, but I throw a picture up here of the wonderful Rosalie Trombley from CKLW, who made so many hit records happen and whatnot.
Right.
And that's me and my buddy Bob and Rosalie, and the other fellow there is his name is Scott Morgan.
Yeah.
And he's still kicking around, but he was the lead singer of a band called the Rationals, which was a very big Michigan band at one time. They had a big hit with the song Respect, which actually came out a little bit before Aretha's, I think.
Interesting.
And, of course, that was a Otis Redding song. But,
right.
But yeah, that's myself, Bob Scott, and the famous Rosalie right there. So
that's awesome. This was taken what, around 80?
Oh, sometime in the 80s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
We were at it was some kind of a maybe local Detroit awards event or something. It was at the Royal Oak Theater. I can't remember exactly what the theme was, but
yeah.
And excuse me.
With the music scene kind of start to develop and what I've on my research aspect of it, they talked about the migration of people coming up, of course, for these type of manufacturing positions and careers and whatnots, and they brought their influences from the South, they brought their influences from Europe and whatnot, and in that kind of fused a community, and the art that came from that community was, I would say, if not one of the most important music explosions that came out of United States. And this is Detroit. We're not, talking about New York City with the,
Right.
huge population. We're not talking about Los Angeles where you had all the influence. Detroit, Michigan, of all places, brought in Motown in 1959.
Yeah.
So you want to share a little bit with us in regards to
Well,
what you remember about that?
even before Motown. I mean, after World War II,
Mhm.
people were actually, despite some of the other underlying social issues, people were getting along, and there was this huge amount of automotive jobs, and a lot of, like you said, folks came up from the South. There was a street called Hastings
Hmm.
in Detroit, and it went from north to south, from downtown somewhat north, and it was the center of what they called Black Bottom.
Hmm.
And if you search the history of Black Bottom, you'll find out that this is where people like John Lee Hooker got started. Everybody and their sister and brother played through Black Bottom. That was an African American artist back in the 50s.
Hmm.
It was very, very, very famous area. And sometime in the early 60s, they decided to build a freeway, and pretty much tore the whole thing down and put a freeway.
Oh,
So
yeah,
there,
yeah.
there was tons of historical places there. If you read up on some of the Motown folks, they played there.
Hmm.
A lot of people were discovered playing there. You mentioned Ford Motor Company. Barry Gordy was actually worked on the car line before he started Motown Records.
Wow.
And there was all kinds of history there, and lots of artists that grew out of Black Bottom. A lot of the players that went on to be the Motown backup bands and whatnot, started their careers back there. So.
Right. So the musicians, especially we're talking about the black musicians that would go up the Chitlin circuit, right, coming from the
Sure.
South through the Appalachians, or to the St. Louis, to Chicago,
Yep.
and then up to Detroit. So this was a migration,
Oh yeah, it was a big part of it, that of the scene back in those days. So
Right.
no question. And there was a couple other places. There was a place up in northern Michigan.
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm having a brain fart now.
That's
It was
all
a
right.
very, very famous kind of a little resort. They had a little lake there and stuff.
Yeah.
And all the brothers played up there. And I'm telling you, everybody went there. It was called
Mm.
Idlewild. If
Okay.
you can search the history of Idlewild
Yeah.
in Michigan, and that was part of the deal. They'd go from Detroit, and then they'd go to Idlewild. It would be like a little vacation for them up there,
Mm.
because it was just it was in the middle of kind of in the middle of nowhere. But it's
Yeah.
a beautiful rural Michigan place up there.
So how far would that be outside of Detroit?
Oh, I'd say about a 3-hour drive.
Oh, okay. So it's a little jog. It's
Back
not
in
just
those
like,
days, maybe a little longer.
yeah.
It wasn't the freeways. Everybody wasn't going 85 or 90 on the freeway back then.
Right. Yeah, right. In the weather, of course, you got major seasons up in the Michigan, Detroit area. During those days, was there, hardship in regards to when the winter came, everybody kind of shut down, or did everybody just live life and just kept on going?
Oh, if you were from here, I mean, you pretty much dealt with it.
Yeah.
Even the folks that came from the South, I'm sure their first winter didn't make them too happy, but
Right.
after a
Yeah.
while, you can do what you got to do.
Right.
You
Well, the
buy
reason why-
boots and shovels.
No question, because being raised down here in the South, I really don't have that kind of reference point, what harsh winter really meant.
Right.
When I went to visit family in Idaho, which, Idaho has extreme weather and winter conditions. This is the first time that I actually understood how preparation, how much in the sense of the seasonal things that you have to deal with, literally almost 5 to 6 months a year.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that you have this town that is so into in regards to building, refining, in regards to product and goods for America, and then the music aspect of it kind of follows suit in the same, because as far as I remember, and I look at the history of Motown, they were cranking out products regular. You see,
Oh
so it was
yeah,
a rotation, right?
it was a factory.
Yeah,
It was great.
and I would say, I mean, help me understand this because I came into music in America in the '70s. So everything I read about Motown, and Motown still was really hot at that time,
Sure,
and I was still listening to a lot of funk music, and because of just diversity of friends showing me stuff or radio put on something.
sure,
I go, oh, what's that? And the aspect of just for them to have that kind of acts rotating out over and over became, I think, an industry standard. I don't know of a record label that was working the machine like the way Motown was working the machine prior to 1960s,
yeah.
right?
Well, they
Then
were. I mean, there was definitely. I mean, I think the LA thing started to take over through the '60s and the early '70s
mm,
as far as pop music was concerned. But we've always had your Memphis, Muscle Shoals, the Philly sound,
yeah,
Detroit. Those were the kings in my opinion. And, Chicago threw in a little bit of stuff, but nothing like those other four. So
right. Well, I think one of the things that, especially coming into the '60s, where music became a huge source of entertainment for that generation, right? This is, I
sure,
think, for the first time, kids were going into their rooms with their little record player and playing singles,
yep.
playing, and I understand that the LP thing didn't really get caught on fire until like probably the mid to late '60s. Do you remember about that time frame, or give me
Well,
your take on it?
yeah. I mean, when I was 10, which was
Yeah,
about ~64. I started learning Beatles songs and stuff with
right.
my neighbor buddy. So I had a good friend named Bob Gillespie. We both started playing guitars together. We lived
Right.
about a block away and went to school together. And so we were real into the British thing, and I was always into the Motown thing too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
between those two, I think that really melded my growing up.
Yeah. And when you went to a music store, is it going like into downtown, or was it big suburbia type of neighborhoods where
Oh,
everybody had their own thing?
yeah, we definitely had one in our neighborhood. We had a nice record store.
Yeah.
There was there was a company called Grinnell Music that everybody in Detroit grew up with, and they were kind of a big piano store.
I
They were
remember.
the ones
Yeah.
that did the pianos for all the public schools and stuff, but they had a big record department. And
Yeah.
they, in their heyday, they probably had about, I don't know, 4 or 5 locations around Detroit. There was downtown, east side, west side, north
Mm,
side. They had,
right.
they had them around. Yeah.
That's interesting. That I think, well, that's the one of the things that really we miss in the new generations is the ability to walk into a nice music record store
Yeah.
and have that kind of selection to select from. And it's different than scrolling on your device. There's no question.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, because there's something about tactile aspect of picking an album up,
Yeah.
or looking at the album art, of course,
Yeah.
and then having records being played in the store as well that you normally wouldn't hear certain songs because the radios wouldn't play it. But once you hear it, you're like, what is that?
Yeah.
You know? And I think that is sorely missed. There's only I know here in Texas and around the Houston area, I only see like maybe 2-3 record stores. Where before it was in every mall,
Right.
in your strip centers, occasionally around the neighborhood high schools and so forth, had a record store as well. You know, and it's kind of sad that we kind of missed on that. But again, hey, everything evolves, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of moved on.
Sort of like the card thing at the library, right?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, remember when you had to learn how to do your index filings and look up your stuff and understand those type of things. Where today, I mean, realistically, we can get on the device and go on ChatGPT or Grok and
Yeah.
immediately get whatever we need. And while that's all nice, the thing aspect of I think about music and art that we miss out, and especially coming out of our own backyard is that somehow, somewhere, the 2000s and up beyond, the record companies hijacked the system to the point where it became very homogenized and mainstream one way of doing things.
Yeah.
I think contributing factor also became evident that streaming music, especially when it started with Napster, that that was cutting in on the record sales.
Oh,
There was
sure.
no doubt that
Sure.
once that was kind of okay, we need to figure out how we're going to sell records now in a
Yeah.
new way. I think everybody kind of became separated, meaning there wasn't now the refined, let's go on tour, let's develop the act. Here's a 4 album deal. Here's a $5,000 development, let's go in the studio and let's cut a
With your
demo. See how
budget.
all that is gone.
Yep. Yep.
Right. So let me go back to Motown a little bit. Let me
Sure.
just start to name some stuff, and you give me your take on how these acts were when you were growing up and you're remembering them. Let's start with
my gosh.
Smokey Robinson and the Miracles.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, geez, kind of I don't know. I guess one of the godfathers of Motown. I mean, not only did Smokey sing, but he wrote so many songs. I mean, from My Girl to on, that some of the other artists did.
Right.
I mean, just legendary, absolute, as legendary as anybody in popular music in my mind. He's like Smokey.
Oh, no doubt. Yes. And it's interesting that I remember listening to a Smokey Robinson interview about almost 20 years ago, and I was just marveled at just how creative, what a humble individual he was as well.
Yeah.
But his creativity, like you said, he wrote so many classics.
Oh my God, yeah, just
other
prolific, absolutely prolific. So.
Right, and it's funny thing is that growing up in the 70s in Texas, of course, I really didn't know Smokey Robinson and the Miracles because that's already moved on, and but yet I remember on TV they would do these compilation records, right, where you can order on TV and they'll give you 3 album. Basically, I think they probably licensed it to this particular record maker.
Right.
That's the only way I could figure out how they could do the best of Smokey and not be on Motown.
Right.
Right. But it was interesting that they ran a spot for the best of Smokey Robinson, and they would play all these songs, and they would have these little actors come in and go, "Oh yeah, man, you got to go with Smokey." And and I just remember thinking to myself, "Wow, who is this guy that everybody's revering so great?" And I recognize the songs.
Sure.
Because you hear them occasionally still.
Sure.
But I had no idea just how big he was until I became a musician later on.
I was blessed to see him about 3 years ago, and he was still doing fabulously.
That's incredible.
He was great.
Yeah.
And I was blessed to meet him once, too, briefly, when I was with Aretha Franklin, who I think it was at Radio City Music Hall, and I think it was Bill Clinton's maybe was it 45th birthday or 50th one. It was a Bill Clinton birthday party, and I'm there with Aretha Franklin, and I got to meet him. So
that's fun. Right? Yeah. Well, I think when you have a network, right, and this is what I've learned throughout the music business, is it's not necessarily how great you are, and it's not even necessarily what you've done that made such a big thing. I mean, it matters, but it's not that nearly as important as what kind of person you are, and have you networked with a group of people that like and work with you.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I've always said to other musicians who's in the business is like, if you don't find enough work, you need to make sure you understand what networking is. You need to understand how to play nice with others.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. So let's talk about the Temptations.
Sure. Well, boy, I just watched their 2-part movie recently, which was very interesting. But
I bet.
Yeah, they were pretty. I mean, they were the Temps. I mean, they're fabulous. And what a history there too. I mean, between I don't know, not much else to say. I mean, they weren't necessarily the writers, but they were the performers.
Right.
And I think they wrote a few of their songs, but not a lot. They were mostly performers, and they were great. So
So one of the things that I've noticed about this group of Motown artists is, of course, number one, matching outfits.
Right.
Number two, choreographed performance.
Right.
So is this something that Barry came up with, or was there some history prior to that even?
Oh, gee, that's a good question. The they had all kinds of stuff. They had a fella named Charlie Atkins that did all the choreography,
Mhm.
taught them the dance moves and stuff.
Wow.
And then they had a lady, and I can't remember her name, but she's the one that she worked mostly with the ladies, but she taught them
Mhm.
how to be ladies.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
how to stand up straight, dressing, being polite, this and that. And she was excellent. But Charlie Atkins used to do the dance moves and stuff,
Mhm.
and he taught them the whole deal. And I got to meet him. I worked with this band called a local group called Adrenaline
Hmm.
in Detroit. They were kind of big, but they put out they had a couple good regional records and stuff, but they had this lead singer fella, Joey Bowen Farner. He's actually Mark Farner's son,
Wow.
and Charlie did a whole thing teaching him moves and stuff before we went on tour, and they did their video.
Wow. That's awesome.
And when you mention the outfits, um, my working nickname is Hot Sam.
Hot Sam.
Hot Sam is what I'm kind of known. There's people throughout the industry. If
Yeah.
you say Jay, they'll go, who? Hot Sam. Oh yeah, I know Hot
That's
Sam.
right. That's awesome.
Well, the way I got that nickname is
Yeah.
because of my fanship for Motown music. We had a sound company here in Ann Arbor back in in the 70s, 73, 4, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I was working back in the shop, and we had an intercom system
Mhm.
that somebody from the front could call on the intercom. Somebody called me one day, and I had a reverence for the outfits and stuff that these guys had, and their outfits were all done at a place called Hot Sam's in Detroit. It's a clothier,
Yeah.
and it's still there. In fact, I just popped it up over here on my page around Monroe Street. They're still going on since 1921. But
Wow.
they supplied all the outfits for Motown. So the intercom rings one day, and I said, "Hot Sam's," just for the heck of it.
That's
And,
great story.
and somehow after that, my nickname Hot Sam stuck. I never had a nickname after that. So the nickname Hot Sam's
Right.
comes from Hot Sam's Clothiers, where the Motown guys all got their stuff. And you can search them on Facebook. I'm looking at the Facebook page right now.
Right.
It's a big, it's not a big place, but it's a historical place in Detroit.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When they are been around that long and contribute so much to
Yeah.
it, no doubt. And that's the thing. I'm really impressed on regards to Barry Gordy's vision to
Yeah.
develop acts. And this is something that most folks out there who's let's say in their 20s and maybe going in their early 30s, who's been in the music business a little bit, unless you're a researcher, historian, really love rock and roll histories and music history, you just wouldn't know that labels put that kind of effort
Oh yeah.
into developing their artists back then.
Yeah. And then they would get once a week or so, they'd all get together in the big room, and they would play stuff that they just recorded that week, and everybody would react to it. And they would give opinions about whether it was a good one or go, and whether they put it out on the radio and stuff.
Right.
It was just an amazing place. If you ever get up to Detroit, you have to go to the museum. I've probably been there over a dozen times.
Wow. Yeah.
And I need to go again because they've recently completed a big improvement thing that added a section on the back.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
But they were like in these two old houses down there. It's fabulous. It's a fabulous tour. I love touring these historic places. I probably told you I went to Muscle Shoals last year, and we're planning a trip to Memphis to do Stax.
Oh, that's going to be awesome too.
Stax and Sun and Ardent and Graceland, all that crap.
Yeah. I think it's always such a treat to see history in those places because you have the records, you still have the song, right?
Yeah.
But to see the booth that they're in or see the microphone that they use.
Oh yeah, you can stand up in the second floor at the one house where Studio A is.
Yeah.
There's a hole in the ceiling, and they it's like a square hole, and you stand underneath it, and you hear the reverb because the attic up there they paneled it with plywood, and they would and painted it with glossy reflective shellac, and they could put pillows and stuff up there to shorten the reverb. That's how they did reverb. They stood under this thing and sang, and you can hear it on there. You can go there to the museum and hear it.
Yeah.
Hear yourself talking under it. It's very cool.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that, a lot of people who's into making music today, because of the advent of technology, they know plugins and so forth.
Yeah.
Had no idea that reflective surfaces and such as, reverb chamber rooms and things like that existed.
Sure.
Well,
there's places on the East Coast that I've done shows in, like, I don't know, I think like the Beacon Theater in New York, and there's a number of them, but they still have the reverb rooms in the basement. And what they would do, like the one that I remember, it's like a curvy, it goes back and forth, curvy U-shaped place, right. And they would put a speaker and a microphone down there. So they would send the voice via a speaker, and they would move the microphone to how short or long you wanted the reverb. It was a natural reverb. This is way before digital or any of that other stuff. That's how they did reverb.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that to me was the art of capturing sound.
Oh yeah, very much.
Yeah, because it wasn't multi-track where you can have a save, right. Let's bounce this over and we'll have this open. It was literally back then 2-track, 3-track, 4-track.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the later stuff, like if you ever listen to Bridge Over Troubled Water by Simon and Garfunkel, that big, huge snare drum thing that they do, they did that in the stairwell at CBS.
Oh, how cool.
Put the microphone up high and the speaker down below. It was done in the stairwell.
Yeah.
But we digress anyhow. But, that's the kind of things they did at Motown. One of my mentors and old friends, Ken Sands, rest in peace, was an engineer there in the later days, and he used to tell me a lot of the little tricks and stuff that they did at Motown. So,
that's fantastic.
And the reverb thing was one of my favorite ones, But they used to make some of their own electronics too. They built stuff like they built a high pass filter. Kids nowadays are all obsessed with bass. Oh, I gotta have bass. It's got. Right. Well, they had a high pass filter at 70 cycles that was analog, but built to like 32 dB, and they did this so that they could master a little hotter to the disc, so that they would pop better on the radio.
Oh, there you go. Sure.
So and I don't know about you, but when I listen to Motown music, I don't ever think there's a lack of bass, man. I hear James Jamerson and I hear this stuff, and it's like, I don't think there's a lack of bass, but 70 hertz was it,
Yeah. No, as a matter of fact, everything that I remember hearing from Motown it's very immediate in front. It's very honest recording representation of it.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I really always loved about that sound. One of my bigger influences I was growing up, of course, I was still on Motown. It came from the Commodores,
Sure.
And at that time, they weren't Lionel Richie in the band. It was literally the Commodores, right?
Right.
So everybody was playing and singing.
Brick
and
house.
I just love the way Thomas McClary played guitar on those songs, because you can literally hear the separations much better than the rock records, right? Because rock records tend to, if you got a rhythm guitar and you got a lead guitar, a bass, and so forth, unless you really have great spacing, everything mushed like this.
Yeah.
Right. Then you got the voice on top.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the thing that I've always found that was extremely charming about Motown music.
Oh, yeah.
Is that you can hear everything.
And so much of that stuff was done, pretty much one take. Or one.
Yeah, that's amazing too.
4 tracks. They started out with 3, and then 4 tracks.
Yeah.
When they went to 8 tracks, it started getting real complex.
Yeah. Well, when you start to get luxury of, we can put this here, we can put that there, and drums will get their own tracks. I'm sure everybody was so excited about that.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah. So now we were talking about the female acts and being, worked with, moves, and all that. Of course, one of the biggest acts came out of that is the Supremes.
Sure.
right? I mean, we can't ignore that Supremes is probably the quintessential outside of Smokey Robinson for
Yeah,
Motown, right?
they were pretty strong. You bet.
So, what was your impression when you first heard the Supremes coming?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, of course, I always loved them. I think Florence was my favorite.
Yeah.
I digress. No, they were. I mean, it was fabulous. Of course, they weren't the first. We had the Marvelettes with Mr. Postman before that, and some other things.
Yeah. Right.
But they were fabulous, and a lot of what, like I mentioned, the lady that did I'm not sure what the word for it is.
Fashion and styling.
Yeah, and oh God, there is a word for it, and I can't think. But she did such a wonderful job with these ladies, because whenever you saw them, you just fell in love with them. They were awesome.
Right.
They weren't. They weren't trying to. They were trying to be artists. They weren't trying to be. Advocates of anything. They were wonderful. I loved them. So,
Right.
all of them. And then of course Martha Reeves was great. She's
Yes.
still around in Detroit. She actually became a councilwoman in the city of Detroit. I don't know.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, she was on city council for, I don't know, 12 years or something. I think she's retired now, but you still see hits about her around town. So.
Right. Oh, that's interesting that, Martha Reeves is, to me, an unsung hero out of that group.
Yeah.
Because she's got an incredible voice.
Oh yeah, and a couple pretty strong hits there too.
Yes. Yes. No doubt that's the thing where when you have, I think, that kind of talent pool, that kind of system developed out of Motown, and then you have listening sessions, and you're going to refine, just getting better and better and better. There's no question, especially top-notch players such as Jamerson playing bass.
Yeah.
And these are things that I think the so-called the middle America, the average white kid who's listening to the soul music for the first time, they're inspired.
Sure.
Because when I was growing up and doing research, when I fell in love with the guitar, the couple of things that jumped out at me was definitely that the shift coming from the guitar player aspect of it. Let's just say that Chuck Berry.
Right.
And of course, and I'm going to kind of start pivoting over to going into the 60s from this, because one of my favorite guitar player growing up is Ted Nugent out of Detroit.
Sure.
And it just blows my mind that Ted Nugent was doing Chuck Berry stuff at age 13 in front of an audience.
Right.
So kind of tell me what you remember regards to how the music scene was to even have kids to be able to play. And this is where I find some of the greatest guitar players that's in the so-called rock and roll, charter, being like Ted Nugent or Neil Schon from Journey, that they were playing professional at 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
13, 14 years old. That was barely trying to figure out how to throw a curveball, much less to be able to be that proficient. So was that a norm around that era?
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm getting over this thing that I've had for about 2 weeks, but yeah, there was a lot of young bands back in those days, and a lot of them had, hit records on CKLW. We had, I mentioned earlier, the Rationals.
Yeah.
They were just kids when they broke out with Respect, and that was a big hit around here. There was a band from Grosse Pointe called the Underdogs. They had a record called Man in the Glass that was a big hit. There was just a bunch of them. They were kind of all over the place, and nobody was over 20 years old.
Right. Yeah, that's the part that's surprising.
A lot of youth involved at that time.
Right. And nobody was considered a world-class virtuoso on a guitar, right? Or on their instrument. But at the same time, because of that, is that better for songwriting? Because you're not overly complicating stuff.
Right.
Right.
Well, there's a lot of that going on. It's, you look at some of these, like Oh, every once in a while, somebody puts up on Facebook one of these lists from 1965 or four or six or whatever of the this top 30 hits of that week.
Right.
Look at them. There's all these songs that you
Yes.
still remember. You can still sing them in your head. I mean, it's I think we talked about songs in our earlier
Right.
podcasts, but that was, I mean, you listen to Motown, it was, the songs were just fabulous, and they were all about, love and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, My
Right.
Girl, Tears of a Clown.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that
Go on and on.
I think during that period of time before the British invasion, we had a really nice transition coming out of the 40s, World War II, right?
Yeah,
Then the development of our suburbia living style really expanded in America. And to have things that could keep us evolving as a society, I thought music really encapsulated that movement
sure,
throughout
sure.
United States. And one of the things, like I was saying, that nobody was a virtuoso. In other words, people weren't up there doing 64 notes legatos and none of the stuff we're hearing today. But at the same time, because of the simplicity of it, we allow the melody to breathe. We
Yeah,
allow the words to be heard.
yeah.
We allow the great grooves and the pockets that was just set out for these songs, like My Girl. Just that song itself,
Oh, yeah.
right? The bass line on that moves in an entire universe of its own.
Yeah.
But it supports the melody.
Well, just that guitar intro, dun, 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 dun.
Yes.
It's iconic.
Yeah. And I
So
think
simple.
we kind of miss that
Yeah,
in,
yeah,
let's say, the music in the last 5 to 10 years.
yeah. We do
Yeah.
for sure.
But then at the same time, when you write something simple, let's just take Taylor Swift for a second. She writes 4 chord songs, right? Pretty simple, similar keys and so forth, and everybody slams it for it. Ah, yeah, she can't write. She's simpleton and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Well, I wish my wallet was that simple.
Isn't that the truth? Well, I always gone by, if you're going to write a good song, write the song. Don't worry about the complexity. Don't think about the intricacy.
Sure.
Everything else will
You bet.
come and play and fit in the right moments.
Yeah.
I've always been a believer of that. So let's talk about this. As we go into the 60s and, music start to expand, and
Yep.
all of a sudden this Guitar Hero thing came out. In this Guitar Hero thing, as far as I can trace back, it came from the Eric Clapton thing.
Yep.
Somehow Clapton got to this mystique of, being the guitar slinger across the pond. And we all know all this stuff is taken from the music that came out of here.
Sure. And
You know?
of course, Clapton was one of many, and John Mayall was probably the godfather of all that. They all came through John Mayall's band.
Right.
And of course, you had Clapton and you had Beck and you had some of the others that are not quite as famous but still fabulous.
Right.
What's
Right.
the fellow with the Stones?
Yeah.
There's just a bunch. The British thing was great because they all idolized the American stuff and they took it to another level.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the interesting thing, that a lot of folks that listen to contemporary sounds of, let's say, the Rolling Stones, right? We're talking about probably Some Girl 77, 78 and on. They have a distinctive sound every record. But if you listen to the mid 60s Rolling Stones, it had the definitive British sound that everybody kind of had. The Who had it, the
Right.
Beatles had it, and so forth. And the guitar thing didn't exist in sense of being a prominent outside of the songwriting until, I believe, 66 and 67, when Hendrix really made a big splash over that
Yeah.
side of the pond. And that changed the perspective of how guitar is being viewed in pop music.
Quite a bit, I think. Yeah. I mean, who would, when you think of great guitar players before then, I mean, what do you think of Chet Atkins and Glenn
Right.
Campbell and
Wes Montgomery.
Yeah, the jazz guys,
Yeah.
Montgomery, that kind of thing, you know. But yeah, Jimmy was definitely he took a different notch, didn't he?
Oh, no doubt. Because Jimmy passed in 71. I didn't pick up a Jimi Hendrix record until 77, 78. And I was blown away with what I was hearing,
Oh yeah. Well,
And
I was blessed to go see him at Cobo Hall and the
yeah,
Sonic Temple here in Detroit. So.
that was an experience.
Oh
Right?
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's the thing where that movement shifted how music was looked at and developed. And this is where out of the Detroit area, and I'm just going to start listing some names. And, I was really surprised. Well, I guess surprised and just maybe forgotten, right? Like for instance, we just talked about Ted Nugent coming out of there. Ted Nugent was a big force of the guitar sound.
Sure.
But I know one of the recording artists that sold millions and millions and millions of records came out of that area, and nobody really think about her associating around the Detroit, Michigan is Madonna.
Yeah.
Madonna's hometown is there.
Yep.
Out of Pontiac, right? So
Rochester, I think she grew up in Rochester, which is not far from Pontiac.
Okay, right. So even though she had to go to New York to kind of do her sound, it's just that the amount of talent and also the go-getting attitude. I think that's what Detroit bred in regards to the undying spirit, because and I know that the business is a tough business, and most people would take a spin at it and they figure out, oh man, this is way too hard, they quit. A lot of bands don't work past 6 months, right?
Yeah.
For Madonna to go out there and slug it out and literally, eating out a garbage can and so forth, and eventually making it, just shows that the kind of attitude I think that region taught.
And then we had, back in the 80s or early 90s, we had this whole techno thing that took over, which I know nothing about, really.
Yeah. Right.
But I know that I worked at a little audio place for about a year or two when I was kind of in between tours. And a lot of those guys used to come in. Was Kevin Saunderson? I don't know. They'd come in and buy stuff from us. It was back.
Right.
We sold tape machines and stuff. But they were our customers. So it was that became big, worldwide big. And like I said, I know nothing about it, but it was one of those Detroit things as you described. And then you had people like Jack White that came up with the the white stripe thing.
Right.
A lot of stuff comes out of Detroit. There's no question.
Yeah. And the interesting about Jack's take is that Jack is influenced extremely with the black artist.
Sure.
Back in the days of, 40s. Yeah. And I love his interpretation. It's extremely honest. Again, I think that's the behavior in the mindset of that region, how they live the harsh winters. They live through, family generations of hard work, blue collar.
Yep.
And there's, when you go to Detroit, I've never been there. I've only seen documentaries or travel channels and things like that. And then we were talking about how 15 years ago or so that Detroit was really going through some hardship and having to go rebuild. Where you told me today, it's now again another fruitful, fun community type of living environment in Detroit, and that's great to hear.
It sure is.
Because here I'm just going to name off how many of these artists in regards to the kind of record sales that influences our world in music. Eminem came out of that area, right?
Yeah.
Eminem sold 227 million records certified.
Wow.
227, right?
Yeah.
Diana Ross has over 100 million bestsellers, 12 Hot 100 number ones. So that to me, again, to have one number one hit could set you pretty good.
Yeah.
Have two is a blessing. 12.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Of course, Aretha sold over 75 million records.
Yep.
Queen of Soul.
Yep.
Her stuff plays to my grandkids. My grandkid loves Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the power of that. Of course, your guy, Bob Seger, you
Yep,
know,
yep,
over 50 million albums sold.
yep.
Easy. And he's the sound. Bob Seger's stuff, especially Night Moves and Hollywood Nights, were the soundtrack of my 8th grade, 9th grade,
Good.
because he nailed it. He
Yeah.
absolutely nailed it. And I wonder, old time rock and roll coming out of the Tom Cruise movie, how much did that influence the early 80s?
Yeah. Sure.
Right.
Sure.
And what I loved about how Bob evolved is that every song has its own personality. We've talked about this
Yeah.
on the songwriting episode, but just the aspect of how honest he can bring that sound in that story to us.
Oh yeah.
That's what I love about Bob. Give us a
Yeah.
good Bob story.
Oh well. He always. I don't know what's a good Bob story. Like you said, and I think we talked about it in our writing cast, but he would take some little saying or something that he heard. It would be a book title or a line out of a movie or something, and if he thought it sounded good, he'd make a song out of it. So
Yeah.
there's a
I
lot
think
of
good
them.
writers able to capsulate an
Yeah.
idea and then put it in their way. Yeah.
You bet.
In another guy that came out of Detroit, Alice Cooper.
Oh yeah.
Right? A lot of people think that he's an Arizona thing, or
Well,
he's
he
an
was
LA
born
thing.
and raised in LA, but he got famous in Detroit. So yeah.
Yeah. So of course, Alice is still working.
I know
That
it's amazing.
to me
isn't
is amazing.
it?
But then I also know that he stopped drinking like a fish, like he was in the 70s.
Well, when I toured with him, I did a couple tours. I did on the Welcome to My Nightmare tour. I was actually with the James Gang.
Okay.
And it was the post Joe Walsh James Gang. And
Right.
actually, Susie Quattro did the majority of the tour, but she had previous bookings. And we went in for the last, it was about a little over 2 weeks. So we did about 12 shows or something. I don't know.
Right.
And at that time, he would drink. He had a little 6-pack cooler that was over his shoulder, like somebody carrying a purse. He had it with him. I mean, when you went to the airplanes at 9 a.m, he had his 6 buds with him. And he was actually pretty coherent at that time. He just kind of, I never saw him look drunk or anything.
Yeah.
He just drank Budweiser constantly. Now, when I actually toured with him and mixed him, that was in the early 80s.
Yeah.
And he had evolved into a few more problems at that point.
Yeah.
And it was before he went clean and kicked it all off. But he was, let's just say the back room of his bus looked like a plumbing supply.
Oh man, I wouldn't doubt it. Well,
but what a wonderful guy. I love the guy, and he had his demons. He went through it, and now he's just doing great. So
right. And during that time of the Welcome to My Nightmare, I mean that is his first crest of wave being going up the top. It's like Kiss hitting Destroyer. Would you?
Yeah, and it was the first without the band, which was kind of interesting. But boy, he had a good band. I mean, he had we had Dick Wagner and Steve Hunter playing guitars.
Yeah.
Dick Wagner's, and both of those guys are Michigan boys too. So and Wagner and Hunter, boy, you can look at a discography of stuff that those two have played on.
Oh yeah.
That's another Michigan story. Dick was from up in the Saginaw area, but he's played on Kiss records and just, he's done studio things for all kinds of people. So
I think back in those days too, they did a lot of ghost work. In other words, they did it. Nobody knew about it.
Yeah. And, it's coming out nowadays, but that you hear about this, but at the time, during Kiss, was it rock and roll over? He did a lot of stuff on.
Yeah.
And I think he worked a lot with Bob Ezrin. So I mean, he just did all kinds of studio work.
Yeah.
I think
Bob really
another Michigan guy, so.
Yeah. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I remember hearing Dick Wagner did Aerosmith records.
Yes, absolutely.
And we're talking about good old Aerosmith stuff that we all grew up on.
The guy was a guitar genius. He's fabulous.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
And Steve Hunter, well, I was aware that he was working with Jason Becker going into David Lee Roth gig.
Okay.
After Steve Vai left. And I'm thinking, Steve Hunter, why? Right?
Yeah.
Then I kind of looked him up and went, oh, well, he's been in the business so long. He knows.
Play. Yeah.
He knows what's needed.
He's a friend on Facebook. He lives in Spain now with his wife.
Oh, no kidding.
Still kicking, but the rest, we're all getting up there. So
yeah, this lifetime comes by fast sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah, I tell you.
Right. So let's talk about a guy named Kid Rock.
Sure.
This guy's made a big noise coming out of Detroit too.
Yep.
11-time platinum.
It was funny. I can't remember the date, but somebody asked me. He said, "We're looking for a sound guy." So I don't think I don't really care to do rap music. And I was like, I'm like, duh. So, at first, at the very, very early days, I thought it was just rap. I didn't realize how rockin' he actually ended up getting. And a lot of the guys in his band are around here and stuff too.
Right.
Jimmy Bones, the keyboard player, is around. And, who was the other guy with the Twisted Trucker band that played with him? That had a big hit record a while ago. But his band, he's had great guys with him and stuff too. So that's a whole nother section of Detroit, that Kid Rock thing. Yeah.
Right. And that's the beauty of it. We've kind of covered bands starting from the 50s, going all the way into 90s and 2000s, and this region has kept on producing great stuff. We didn't even touch the MC5. We didn't even touch Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
And these, especially Grand Funk, as much as I hear their stuff on the radio growing up, I really didn't understand just how big this band really was around 71, 72.
They sold out Shea Stadium, for crying out loud, and they're still not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Makes no sense, right?
You could go to the list and find 24 people or whatever that they should be ahead of.
So what do you think? Is there's like a discrimination toward those regions because they're not as popular or glitzy as the New York or the LA type of acts developed?
I'm not sure how they make their decisions, to be honest.
Well, we kind of all, as a musician and as a fan, I would say I don't put a lot of stock in Rock and Roll Hall of Fame just due to the fact that the stuff they put in before the ones that made. Look how long it took before they put Kiss in.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not saying Kiss was such a great musicians, but if you had to say one popular culture, music-driven act that really changed the landscape of entertainment, you would have to consider Kiss being the band.
Well, sure. Is the term fame or is it something else? If the criteria is fame, then they certainly deserve to be there.
Right.
And it's another thing. They were Detroit was one of the two markets that helped boom them up the chain.
Yeah. I love that Cobo Hall video because it was so Kiss Alive era.
Yep.
And I felt that energy. And this is why, for the audience out there, Jay's going to come back and we're going to do an episode on 74, 75 Kiss.
Oh, boy.
Because that, let's think about that. The ramping up of any band, right?
Yeah.
Any band, great. Whether it's be Zeppelin with Zeppelin 1, Zeppelin 2, Van Halen 1 coming off of the Black Sabbath tour, or Kiss coming into their own after Dress to Kill.
Yep.
It's the first roller coaster drop of finally climbing that big hill, right?
Yeah, it was meteoric at the time, that's for sure.
Right. And today, and this is why, let's look at today's music scene. Everybody's paying over $100 to ticket. You're lucky if you get something for $50. And we're talking about big acts. We're not just talking about, the House of Blues acts. We're talking about big acts. So $100 is going to get you what? This tremendous light show, this big over-the-top sound system, and then the act itself seems to be secondary. Because, like, for instance, a band like Motley Crue, who has now been pointed and been talked about of recording their tracks and going up there and just, pantomiming it.
Yeah.
And I understand that throughout the years that many bands has had ghost players sitting behind the curtains or underneath the stage. I've seen it, and it's okay. I get that, but I'm not so okay with a singer putting on a track that's pre-recorded and then just go up there and standing in front of the stage.
Yeah.
Right. And this is where today, everything that's bombastic, everything that's over the top, the light show that, just the best of the incredible light shows didn't really exist until Kiss slowly but surely brought that standard up to that level.
It's amazing what some of the stuff that we all thought was nuts was kind of pioneering.
Oh, as a matter of fact, I remember making a statement a couple of years ago, and everybody kind of jumped on me on this, right? Because it was like the reason why we see this spectacular thing in the spectacle on NFL, in NBA, in World Wrestling Federations, in contemporary acts that can't really play anything other than showing up, all can thank Kiss for starting this.
Yeah.
Because prior to that, if Kiss didn't do what they were doing, they just showed up, did the same old perk hands up there, and that's it.
Yeah.
Then somebody, I'm sure, will eventually go that direction.
Yeah.
Right. But because they did it, and they didn't do it in the sense of so uniquely like the guillotine with Alice Cooper or anything like that. They did it where everybody go, oh, well, we can take some of this. And it wouldn't be just us doing Kiss. Yeah. It would be over the top light shows, especially the fireworks and the pyrotechnics.
Yep.
Right. The pyrotechnics, to your recollection, was that even existing anywhere in any kind of shows at that time?
Not as a regular thing. I mean, there was a lot of, there was people that would do something, more for shows and stuff, I think would, but it was, to do it every night it was pretty, it was pioneering at the time. Like
no doubt. So that's why I wanted you and I on a future episode really go deep dive on that, because
that'd be fun.
Yeah, because I know the behind the scenes and how you are an intricate part of that growth.
Sure.
It's got to be a certain ways of thinking to put that logistically out at that time of life, right?
Oh yeah.
Because people were still going to shows where people had virtually very small light systems, decent PA, and everybody wearing jeans and a nice shirt buttoned up and playing. Yeah. And that's your concert, right? Yeah. There was not this overzealous energy of just take over.
It was nuts.
Yeah. And so let's we're over an hour. Let me just start to tighten this up and wrap this up in regards to the Detroit Motown. And I just wanted to say to the fans out there in the music world, this is a huge part of American music contribution to the landscape of humanity in our artistic expressions.
Yeah.
And with that, Jay, give me your top 3 Motown songs that people should know and learn or hear.
Oh boy, I think you got to start out with the early stuff, like Smokey with My Girl was definitely a big favorite of mine. If you look at it was more like went to LA time, but Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, the whole album.
Great song.
Just, listen to the whole darn thing,
Right.
I can't even take one song out of it, but that to me was huge. Boy, how do I pick number 3? I said it earlier. I mean, Tears of a Clown was always one of my favorites.
Yeah.
I could go on and on.
Oh, I know, because I know I put you in a spot when I go, here's 1,000 songs of greatness, pick 3.
Yeah, I mean, and then you get into Stevie Wonder, and
yes,
it's just we didn't even talk about Stevie earlier, but my Lord, such a if anybody, I encourage anybody that just delve into it. Go online and search some history of Motown, history of Detroit.
Yeah.
Listen to it, and you'll, if you're not a fan, okay, but I got a feeling you're not normal if you don't come out being a fan.
Right. Oh, no doubt. I think anybody who loves music, if they
Yeah.
did a deep dive on Motown years,
Oh my God.
especially the golden era, I think they'll come back out being a huge Motown fan.
Yeah.
How could you not? Because the stuff was just so beautifully put together.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. And we didn't talk about Jackson 5.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
they weren't. I mean, they did come into the Motown fold, didn't they?
Yeah.
Not really from Detroit, but yeah, they're. You know what? I mean, yeah. What can you say about Jackson 5 and Michael Jackson? I mean,
and that's the thing about Barry I thought was really ingenious, is that he saw the individual talents, he saw the packaging, he knew how to refine it slowly on, hey, we need to help this make this happen. And that to me has always been incredible feat
Yeah.
for a record company to be doing that.
pretty amazing character, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's where the artists that could do this, like Stevie Wonder, a lot of people didn't know Stevie was actually in the scene, and people knew of him in the early 60s as a kid,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
They
yeah.
like for me, I didn't know that for a long time, because my first introduction of Stevie was in the mid 70s when he redid Sir Duke.
Yeah.
And that's when I went, oh, hey, who's this? This is great. Then, of course, later on, I went back to stuff and hear his stuff. I was like, oh, okay.
He used to show up in front of the building on West Grand Boulevard playing his harmonica sitting outside.
Oh, no kidding.
You know, he was brought in and discovered, and it was, the rest is history. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of stuff like that going on? Like neighboring watering
Oh, yeah.
holes and outside?
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was. I mean, it was just they were all part of a whole scene. The guys played at the clubs in town, and
Yeah.
The Funk Brothers were. They came and recorded during the day, and they played at some club at night.
Yeah. And what about do you remember the group Silvers? They had like a one big hit during the mid 70s.
Not ringing a bell.
Okay, so the Silvers came out, and they spelled it with a Y opposed to an I, right?
Okay.
And they came out, and they had a similar vibe to the Jackson 5s.
Right.
And they got on television. They were doing, outdoor local shows, like what would you consider maybe open market type of shows, or state fair shows. And at that time, there wasn't like the kind of circuit it became in the 90s and 2000s, right?
Right.
Or 90s and 2000s, you can go to a state fair and holy smokes, Styx is playing. Right?
Yeah.
You're kind of like going, wow, where did this come from? But that was to me another uniqueness, is that everybody would start to take what Barry was doing. I don't think Silvers was part of Barry's system. I could be wrong. I don't know, because they were very short stint of it. But
Right.
whatever noise they were making at that time in the mid 70s, it worked for that year. And that's the thing, is how many acts that we know that was developed around that time, that label, that region, that came out and boom,
Sure.
had a good year or so, and then kind of went away. Do you have any
Well-
examples of that you remember?
Well, I don't know. The other thing I was thinking about, for anybody who's listening and wants to think about or wants to learn a little bit about what's happened in Detroit, is to do some research on the Grandy Ballroom,
Okay.
which is a whole nother story.
Right.
There's a great, my friend Tony did a documentary called Louder Than Love,
Uh-huh.
the story of the Grandy Ballroom. And if you just search Grandy Ballroom, the history there, and how many bands played and what they thought
Sure.
about it. And if you haven't watched that movie, by all means, look for Louder Than Love and watch it.
Okay.
It's must viewing for anybody.
That's awesome. Yeah. And let me kind of ask you this. Cobo Hall is extremely well revered.
Sure.
It doesn't exist anymore, right?
Well, the building's still there. They took the arena out and turned it into more. They expanded their show space. They still do the auto show there and stuff like that. But
Okay.
they stripped the arena out and did something different inside of it.
So what replaced Cobo Hall?
There was Cobo Hall and Cobo Arena.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so the arena is where we did all our shows. Cobo Hall is a big convention hall. It's where they've had the auto show for
Right.
70 years or something. So ever since they first built it, and the arena was where they did shows.
Right. Right.
And they've since stripped out the arena. It's still there. The building's still there. It's just all different on the it's all become part of Cobo Hall instead of Cobo Arena.
Okay, and that was the go-to place for big time acts.
And then they built Joe Louis Arena,
okay,
which the Red Wings took over, and now that's gone. And they've got the new Little Caesars Arena, which is up kind of what they call the area Midtown. It's a little north of downtown, but Little Caesars is now the place. But yeah, the Cobo Hall building is still there. It's just the arena building. It's just all Cobo Hall now.
So basically, it's probably just it got to the point where it was just aging too much to
it was aging. It was difficult. All the little things. There wasn't enough rigging capability. You only one truck at a time. Not enough people to make a big profit.
Yeah.
Because it was relatively small. It was actually a great place for a concert as big halls go.
Yeah.
Because of it, the shape was very, very good.
Yeah.
And it actually sounded for a hall that size very good. But I can't remember exactly what the capacity was, but it was maybe 10-ish, 10,000-ish. And nowadays, these, Taylor Swift needs 18 to 20 to sell enough tickets or something.
Right.
So
yeah, that's kind of nuts, isn't it? Back in the days, everybody was selling 12,000 seaters being top acts.
Yeah.
And that was good. Today, you rarely have that much in regards to the acts that can pull that.
Yeah.
But then the act that can pull that wants almost double the size.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So Cobo it went the wayside. So.
Yeah. And I miss the old days, don't you? In sense of
here's
a band that's on let's say on a wave going up and they get hot.
Yeah.
Right. So now they're coming back opposed to just selling one night on Tuesday. They're now blocking off Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I miss being 50 years younger sometimes. So
well, I'm sure it's nice to go into a place that that you can set up and stay there for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's always good.
Right. Because then you can kind of soak up the local, flavors and kind of relax a little bit opposed to jumping right back up and start taking stuff apart.
Yeah. You go out after the show and sleep in the next day.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
I like that.
Well, Jade, thank you so much. I think this has been a great conversation.
Always fun to be together.
Yeah. Oh, I have a great time. And I always love your stories. I learned little nuggets of things that, that came through your experience. And again, I love music. And I'm sure a lot of folks out there love music. All right. And awesome. to really understand how big a contributing factor that America was and still is in regards to global society, music, arts influence.
Sure.
It's something that I can't even put my finger on saying just how big it has become. Like hip hop is worldwide.
Yep.
Hip hop is worldwide. That thing came out of, inner city LA, inner city Brooklyn, Queens, and of course there's through other places. I'm sure Detroit had it. I'm sure Chicago had it. I'm sure Atlanta had it. Right?
You bet. Yep.
Yeah. So for us to kind of take it for a grain of salt and just like, oh yeah, I remember Motown and don't think much about it because as a label and so forth, I don't think they're operating. There's nothing around of actively pushing a soul genre or a funk genre.
No, and you start listening to those records and you look at that little place they did it, it's just magic.
Right. Magic. And I really do believe, and I know a lot of artists says the same thing. We rather rehearse, get ready to go, and go in there and capture it first take, than to sit there and beat it like a dead horse in the 50th overdub on that measure.
Oh yeah,
right. But sometimes, if you need to punch in a word, I get it. You need to punch in a note, I get it. Yeah. But if you work on a song and just beat it and beat it, unless you're Pink Floyd, it usually don't come out. And this is where every act has their uniqueness and what they contribute to. Yeah. Any last words about the Detroit in Motown?
No, just what I've said already. Go to the museum when you get to Detroit and watch the Grandy Ballroom movie.
Oh, that's going to be great. Yeah, I'm going to go check that out.
Oh, and there's a Funk Brothers movie about all the cats that played at Motown. That's another must see.
Yeah.
But just Google the stuff and soak it up. That's all.
That's
You'll
awesome.
love it.
Right. And then we'll be back soon, huh? We're going
right.
to do the 74, 75 Kiss. I think that a lot of folks out
And
there.
the 76 too.
Oh, okay.
I was
Yeah.
there till September of 76. So.
Right. Well, we definitely will talk a little bit more in depth of just that incredible Anaheim show.
Well, that was summer of 76. So that was the time that was the big boom. So
right.
We'll do it. All right.
I think you had with that particular band, you got to see, I think the best part of it.
Yeah,
because this is before the money and the champagne's flowing freely.
I always like to say it was before leather and studs became spandex and sequins.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, I fully understand that transition was needed because they were about to become the machine
Sure.
that Bill Aucoin built.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it was all in fun.
Yeah. But as a struggling band, I think that's the fun part about any music career is that when you're still hungry, when you're still having the camaraderie of brotherhood being the driving force of why we show up every day, turn on our gear and go at it. I think there's a lot of truth and honesty and authenticity about who they were. Like you said many times, Kiss is probably one of the hardest working bands you've ever seen.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah.
Those few years, nobody worked harder ever.
Right. And I understand that because, you know, as a kid growing up that era and following that band and really, I'm one of those kids that, you know, I like a band. I'm going to go find everything I can get my hands on. And when I found out how Kiss, who they were, what they did, and ultimately, if the live record didn't land, they were going home. They were going to go drive cabs.
We'll have a good time talking about that one.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Thank you, Jay.
All right, my friend.
Have a great weekend, sir.
Take good care.
And all of our audience, thank you for tuning in.
Happy New Year, everybody. See you in a bit.
Okay. Yeah, and we'll see you. Don't forget, I got to say this: like the screen, you know, thumbs up if you're on Rumble, like and subscribe, and then of course share. The whole thing about this to get it out there to teach people, show people, or basically share knowledge in regards to what's all going on. And if you know somebody who loves music and has just never been even familiar with what Detroit has to offer, hey, show them this video.
Beautiful.
You know, we hope that it opened up a whole new flavor and a whole new adventure in music.
All right.
Yep.
Sounds
so thank
good,
you very
Jeff.
much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, everyone. We'll see you on the next 13th Note Art of Mastery.